Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. In the description of this video, you can find my compiled link. Through there, you can find ways to support the channel, my other social media, and more. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching. How's it going, everybody? CJ here, back with another video. We're doing a first thoughts today. This first thoughts on Elesh Norn, Mother of Machines. It's my first thoughts for Phyrexia All Be One. Really cool commander here. It's mono white, but it provides value, it provides stacks, it does everything that mono white wants to do. This card is sweet. It's got better Panharmonicon on it because it triggers for all your permanents, not just your artifacts and your creatures, which is sweet. It's Panharmonicon, as Reddit is calling it right now. I love that. Very funny. And also, permanents entering the battlefield don't cause abilities of permanents your opponents control to trigger. So that's a really cool hating ability on your opponent's ETBs, or cards that your opponents have that will trigger when you play something. Works out really well. This card seems extremely powerful and can shut down a lot of strategies and really boost your strategy. I'm excited to talk about this commander. It's going to be fun. So the categories we're going to talk about today are really just like the permanent types that you can play. The main thing that you're going to be wanting to do with this deck is probably playing a lot of creatures with enters to battlefield effects. So I'm going to talk about a lot of creatures with powerful enters to battlefield effects. And some cards that can really help to make that even better, like some synergy cards there. Then I'm going to talk about some cards that work well with lands entering the battlefield. Then we have enchantments entering the battlefield. A little bit about artifacts, some Stax stuff, and then in the 99. So excited to do this? Let's hop right into this. Some creatures that work really well with this commander, because when they enter the battlefield, they'll have a triggered ability, which will get doubled, include cards like Aerial Extortionist, which is also nice because it's also a Stax piece, so it synergizes a bit with the second ability of Elesh Norn. Angel of Ruins, Angel of Serenity. I think that card is very underplayed. It seems sweet, especially in a mono white deck. It gives you recursion and it gives you removal. Some of those splicers, you're able to make golems. I think there's 3 of them, so the last one will be up now. Canoptic Scarab Swarm from the Warhammer Commander decks. Cavalier of Dawn, just double Beast Within. Charming Prince, good utility there. Duplicant, Karmic Guide, Knight of the White Orchid, and Core Cartographer are both great ramp cards. Lauren seems very cool for this deck. Illuminate Primordial, Solemn Simulacrum, Recruiter of the Guard, that can actually get out most of the cards that I'm talking about in this category, so that works really well. You can just grab 2 of these ETB creatures. Skyclave Apparition, Solitude, Soul Sisters cards, they all work really well for this deck, gaining a lot of extra life. Space Marine Devastator, Spirited Companion and Wall of Omens, and Sun Titan. When you are relying on having a lot of creatures entering the battlefield, you're going to want to run cards that also trigger when you have creatures entering the battlefield. Some of those include Blessed Sanctuary, Preston, and Rumor Gatherer. In order to fully capitalize on these ETB creatures, you're going to want ways to flicker or blink them. Some of those include Eldrazi's Displacer, Felidar Guardian, Flicker Wisp, Glimmerpoint Stag, Restoration Angel, Cloud Shift, Conjurer's Closet, Eerie Interlude, Ghostway, Lazelle's Acrobatics, Semester's End are all fantastic because you can hit all of your creatures with them. Ephemerate, Far Traveler is an interesting background. Flicker of Fate, Flicker Form, Teleportation Circle, and Sword of Hearth and Home. All of those can put in a lot of work in this type of deck and should definitely be considered when building. I think that the ones that hit all of your creatures are auto-includes, like Lazelle's Acrobatics. Those seem fantastic for this deck. Next up, we're going to talk about some land synergies, because you're going to be playing a lot of lands. Every turn you want to play a land, so why not synergize? When you play a land, you get to do extra things. Some cards that trigger when you play lands include Admonition Angel, Emeria Angel, Emeria Shepherd, Felidar Retreat, Field of the Dead, Retreat to Emeria, and Trove Warden. A few ways that you can trigger them more than once a turn include some of the white ramp cards like Aerial Surveyor, Archaeomancer's Map, and Battle Angels of Tyr. However, those cards only trigger if you have less lands than one of your opponents. So if you're not playing against a green deck, you're going to want to have ways to kind of sacrifice some of your lands. That way you can play more lands, stuff like that. So that way you can get more value and you can use your lands as a resource more than just tapping for mana, but as a permanent you can sacrifice. Some cards that work well for that include Dust Bowl, Zurin Orb, Aura Fracture, and then you can get them back with Crucible of Worlds. You also have Ruin Ghost, which can flicker your lands, which is really cool. I like that card a lot. Now we're going to talk about some enchantments that work really well with Elesh Norn. There's a lot of good enchantments for this deck because a lot of enchantments that have ETBs, and a lot of those are removal. Some of those include Baffling End, Banishing Light, Borrowed Time, Consulate Crackdown, Grasp of Fate, Oblivion Ring, and On Thin Ice. All of those are fantastic removal cards. You should run those over cards like Swords to Plowshare in this type of deck because each one's going to hit 2 creatures or 2 non-land permanents. They're fantastic. Really, really powerful stuff here. You could go full in on these enchantment style build and it could be really, really cool, interesting. Your opponents will hate you, but it'll be fun. Another enchantment that works really well but isn't removal based is Marshal's Anthem. That's a cool card because it's both an anthem and it can recur stuff from your graveyard. If you do go with a lot of enchantments in this deck, you can run cards that trigger when you play enchantments like Ajani's Chosen, Archon of Sun's Grace, and Historian's Boon. You also could consider running Flickering Ward just because it's an enchantment that you can replay very easily to get those triggers to happen again and again and again. Now I'm going to talk about a couple of artifacts that seem pretty decent for this deck. Astrolabe seems pretty good, just card draw. Coveted Jewels, a lot of card draw really fast, and that's a fun card. That card's really interesting. Portal to Phyrexia is just a one-sided board wipe with Elesh Norn in play very easily. The Mightstone and Weakstone seems fantastic, and Sabo's Web, just another Staxy card that draws you cards on ETB. It works well with both sides of this commander. There's also a few cards with Imprint that seem pretty interesting for this deck. Clone Shell, Isochron Scepter, Prototype Portal, and Soul Foundry could be pretty cool to include in this deck and have some interesting synergies. Now it's time to talk about Stax. I love Stax. I have an Elesh Norn deck right now. For the original Elesh Norn Stax deck, this card might go into it. I think it probably will. I'm not sure yet. I gotta double check what I have for ETBs in the deck. But Stax is a very fun playstyle if you're the one staxing, not the one being staxed. And it's a very powerful playstyle. And there's a lot of cards that work really well with both sides of this by having an ETB, but also are Stax pieces. But right now I'm going to talk about mostly just Stax pieces. Good Stax cards that you can throw into this deck if you want to go that route. Those include Myrel, Thalia, either of them, the original Elesh Norn, Archon of Emeria, Aven Mind Sensor, Drannith Magistrate, Esper Sentinel, Hushbringer, Aura of Silence, and Linvala. Last up we got in the 99. Time to talk about some commanders that this Elesh Norn could slot into very well. You have Blink commanders or Flicker commanders similar to Preston, Brago, Rune, and Eminatu. All of those fantastic include. There's also commanders that just have ETB effects on them, and you're kind of playing around those. So cards like Amarith, Arcades, Omnath, Lightpaws, Marnius Calgar, Negan, Tiamat, and Nazan, all fantastic. There are tons of commanders that Elesh Norn would fit right into as a second Panharmonicon, except better because it interacts with all permanent types, and a lot of these commanders don't get that. Like Lightpaws, Panharmonicon does not work for that because it's all enchantment based. Works here. I think that this is a really cool card for in the 99 specifically. It's a great commander, but this thing's going to be run in so many decks. It's going to be a commander staple from now until forever, until it gets outpowered by something. Like if they reprint the same thing basically, but 1 mana less. This card's insane. It's so good, and I'm excited to tool around with it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Peace out, everybody.